Hi, good afternoon everyone, and welcome to the WPP learning series on Salesforce Marketing Cloud. I would like to welcome all WPP agencies, clients, and partners to this session. This is part of a 6 series workshop. Today's session will focus more on giving you an understanding of Marketing Cloud and how it can generate ROI for your customers. The next 5 workshops are technical in nature, starting next week, and are restricted to pre-registered participants. For our today's sessions, we have 2 speakers. The first is Yashdeep Vaishnav, Country Head for Salesforce Marketing Cloud, and the second is Mir Karkare, Executive Vice President, Miram India. I now hand over to Yash to take this conversation forward. Over to you, Yash.
Thank you. Thank you, Harish. First of all, it's great to be here. Thank you for having me here. As a quick introduction, I manage the Marketing Cloud business, like Harish mentioned, been here in the MarTech and AdTech space for about slightly over a decade. Have seen various solutions, that are basically shaping the way marketers are doing business, and it would be great to learn from some of the feedback that you guys give us towards the end of this. But quickly to introduce Marketing Cloud, what we do is we have a bouquet of services or solutions, which is across the digital marketing space that people want to kind of engage with their consumers on. So the standard solutions like which help you with campaign to analytics. So Salesforce and Google have announced a partnership, and Salesforce now sells to customers in India the GA360. Then there are solutions on the social, which is on their online reputation management and compete and so on and so forth. And then there are various solutions that also help you with real-time advertising and obviously the retargeting. So basically, we help you connect across the customer lifecycle. Essentially, Salesforce is a CRM organization, but when you connect marketing with sales and service, it's a very, very different experience. Having said that, the opportunity that we have today in India, as per Gartner, the report that came out in April, is about 42 million. India as a market has about 42 million of spend on marketing automation and analytics. We've been here for about 4 years as Marketing Cloud, and it's been a great journey. We have about 205 or 206 live customers in India. Unlike a lot of other MarTech players, we work with almost every industry. So we don't have just the standard retail, travel, and e-com, but we have customers across also financial services, manufacturing, ed tech, professional services, and so on and so forth. We have various models in which we operate with our customers. So it's not just something which is, sell and forget, but we also help customers, with regard to their onboarding and obviously manage a lot of these customers. In fact, Miram manages probably over 120, 130 plus customers. And I think it would be only fair to say that today, wherever we are as Salesforce Marketing Cloud, is a lot due to the effort and the support that is coming from Miram. And lastly, the India infrastructure on the Salesforce side. So we've got people across not just the sales and customer success, but we also have product who is now based in India. And there is the engineering team that's based out of India as well. I would be happy to hear from you on your feedback, questions towards the end. But with that, I will hand it over to Mihir.
Thank you so much, Yash, for that intro from your side. Thank you also, Harish. I'm happy to take on the next part of the presentation. So I will deep dive into the topic for today, which is delivering ROI using MarTech, right? That's going to be the topic for today. Very quickly, I want to talk about our agenda. I want to give a quick introduction about Miram India and Salesforce, which establishes why is it that we are talking about this topic today. Then we dive into what is MarTech, how does it help you drive ROI, 2 specific case studies to showcase how that ROI is delivered, and then a little bit about how everybody in this audience can think of, especially the agencies in the audience, how can they think of who could their target audience be for a MarTech solution. With that, coming quickly to why why Miram is conducting this session. So we are a Salesforce Gold consulting partner. We've been working with Salesforce India now for 8+ years and have capabilities across all of the products in their marketing technology stack. right from their DMP to Pardot to Datorama to ExactTarget, Evergage and Google Analytics 360. So their entire suite of marketing cloud solutions we have capabilities on. We have 60 plus certified professionals within our team. We've built some custom accelerators which allow customers to derive increasing value out of Salesforce. And we also, given that we are a part of the WPP family, we have a huge emphasis on customer satisfaction. How do we make sure that the customers that we work with are very, very happy with the work we do? And that's something that the customer satisfaction score kind of bears out. And that's why, we're going to talk a little bit about how we've been able to do some of these things for all these clients that you see on your screen. So we work with clients, like Yash mentioned, across industries. These are all our MarTech clients and Salesforce Marketing Cloud customers, BFSI and FinTech, education, retail, technology, media, entertainment, travel and hospitality, and real estate. So across all of these different industries, we have a whole host of customers. Which brings me to what is MarTech? How can it deliver ROI? And we thought the best way to illustrate this is through a customer journey. So let's try to understand this from one particular industry. Right now, all of us as agencies may be working on different industries, different customers, and some of the customers who are here on this call may be from different industries. But we thought it will be interesting to illustrate through the example of one specific industry. So we are talking about banking and financial services, which we call BFSI. And within BFSI also, obviously, there are so many different types of organizations, banking, asset management, insurance, wealth management, and so on. So for the case of today's presentation, where I'm going to explain, I will take the example of a asset management company. Important to note, whatever I'm going to talk about today, each of the further sessions we are doing, so we are doing 5 more sessions. Those sessions will deep dive on various components that I talk about today. So if I talk today about the about ExactTarget or the orchestration platform, the next session will talk about that in more detail. If I talk about Evergage, there's a session a few sessions down which will talk about that in more detail, right? So for now, I'm going to explain through the example of an asset management company. And we've created a fictional asset management company called MF Mutual Funds. For MF Mutual Funds, let's try to first understand who are the consumers. And again, this is something that we do very often, either working on our own brands or working for our customers. We try to understand who is the consumer. And this is a very simple kind of split that I have taken on 2 parameters. One is what is the life stage. So again, to simplify, I've taken people who are in their 20s, people who are in their 30s, and people who are in their 40s. And then I've taken one more cut, is whether they are first-time investors or whether they are existing investors. Now, obviously, depending on which intersection of these 2 parameters they fall in, there are different things that they are looking for. So a first-time investor in his 20s is probably looking for maybe tax saving, maybe he wants to purchase a car, maybe wants to do some sort of a lifestyle purchase. But let's say there is an existing investor in her 30s. She's probably looking at marriage, kids education, future security, wealth creation, family vacation, and so on, right? So what they are looking for changes depending on each of these intersections. Further, the challenges that they have are different. So for example, if you look at product awareness as one parameter, the first time investor has probably very, very low product awareness. But even if we look at an existing investor, the product awareness is not very high. It's just a slightly higher. It's not a complete product awareness that we see. Similarly, for things like financial awareness, perceived risk. So a first time investor perceives a lot of risk, whereas existing investor still perceives a small amount of risk, and so on. Right. So that's the way that we look at understanding the consumers in more detail. Now let's take one of those consumers. So this, if you remember, this is a pen portrait we've done for a consumer called Aditya Singh. He is 29 years of age. He's from Chennai. He's single, works in retail, and he's looking to get married soon. Right. Now, what are the challenges that he or she faces? In this case, Aditya faces. So this is something that we've derived after talking to a lot of consumers. And what we are able to say, the challenges that he faces are things like he feels the plans are very irrelevant. Communication or calls from customers come at any time, from the mutual fund company comes at any time. There's a lack of innovative products. There are a lot of hidden TNCs. He has a fear of losing money. He lacks trust on agents, so on and so forth. So these are all the challenges that these consumers are facing. And if we were to club those challenges into 3 different categories, what we see is, broadly speaking, they fall into the following 3 categories. A, the brand doesn't know me. B, the brand knows me but doesn't seem to be doing anything about it. And C, I don't know the product or service that's being offered, right? So broadly speaking, whatever the challenge, they are falling into these 3 categories. Further, the journey that the consumer takes to purchase a mutual fund, and you can create similar journeys for any industry. In this case, the journey that the customer takes online is not a very straightforward journey, right? So there is a lot of stages that he or she goes through, right from a need and awareness stage, where they realize that there is there is some kind of requirement that they have, or they view a TVC, to creating a goal for themselves, or mapping out a goal for themselves, searching about some information. Once the search is done, evaluating alternatives, shortlisting possible investment options. Maybe they go to one of their websites and submit a lead on the website. Maybe they do a purchase decision. So after submitting a lead, they look at what are the offerings and they make a purchase decision. But the journey doesn't end with the purchase, right? After the purchase happens, there's an onboarding process they go through. Maybe they do multiple transactions, and maybe even after the purchase, they are doing an evaluation. Oh, did I make a correct decision? Do I need to change my decision, and so on? So this is the kind of complex journeys that we see in the life of the customer today. Which brings me to the second part of our conversation, which is the challenges that are faced by a brand marketer. So what are the challenges a brand marketer faces? And interestingly, we did a survey in one of our events, and we saw that roughly speaking, these were the 3 challenges. They were evenly distributed. So 1/3 of the people said their biggest challenge is acquisition. 1/3 of the people said their biggest challenge is engaging with customers, and 1/3 said improving lifetime value. So these are core challenges that marketers face today. And marketers also look at the customer journey in a particular way, right? So we saw how the customer journey actually is, but marketers look at the customer journey in this particular way, which is they look at the customer being an unknown user. So he's just maybe browsing their website, converting the unknown user into a known user. Once the person becomes known, he or she becomes a potential customer. From potential customer, when you convert some of them to making a purchase with you, they become a first-time purchaser. Then as an existing customer, they may do further actions like referrals, or you may cross-sell or upsell to them. So that's how the customer journey happens. Now what's interesting is when we start mapping these challenges. So you saw the consumer's challenge, which is Aditya's challenge, which was the brand doesn't know me. The brand knows me but doesn't seem to be doing anything about it yet. And I don't know the product or service. On the other hand, you look at the brand's challenges. The brand's challenges are, how do I acquire customers? How do I engage customers? And how do I improve the lifetime value of customers? So broadly, what we see is there's a mapping between what the consumer's challenge is and what the brand's challenge is, right? So this is how this is the kind of conclusion that we come to, and that's where the solution comes in. So this is where the Salesforce MarTech stack, Salesforce Marketing Cloud, can come in and resolve these solutions. So these are the 3 specific solutions from within the Marketing Cloud stack that I'm going to talk about today. The first one is Audience Studio, and you can see which part of the journey it plays a very important role in. The second part is the Salesforce Marketing Cloud, and then there is Datorama, which plays a role across this entire journey. And again, like I said, we have for each of these, we have dedicated sessions coming up as the learning series progresses, where we are going to be doing a detailed run through of the platform, actually showcase how the platform looks and works and so on. So those sessions are coming up in the future. Very quickly, what I want to note is, anybody has any questions or any doubts or anything like that, there's a questions tab that you guys may see. Please feel free to keep asking questions within that tab. Towards the end of the session, we'll be happy to take on questions that do come in. Yeah. So like I'm saying, there's a mapping between the problems that the customer faces and the problems that the brand faces. And using the Marketing Cloud, we are able to showcase some sort of a solution for each of these problems or challenges. So let's deep dive. Okay, so let's start with unknown users. So these are users who are potentially coming to your website. They are browsing your website, not giving you any PII, but just spending their time trying to research or something like that. Alternatively, these could be people who they are viewing your media on a through some digital campaign that you're doing. So maybe they are on a sports page somewhere and you want to target them. So you know there's an ad that you've run which is showing on that sports page, say on a newspaper or something like that, right? On an online newspaper. So these are unknown users. You don't know much about them. How does the Audience Studio, which is the first part of the solution, help you move these unknown users into known users? So first, what the Audience Studio does is it creates a unique ID for every single person who's browsing either on our website, owned website, or through any media impression that the person consumes, right? So a unique ID to identify that user gets created. Further, the user behavior on our website is collected, which is what we call first party data. So when the person comes to our website, what is she looking at? What is she browsing? What sort of content is she consuming? And lastly, it allows us to segment this information. This behavioral information can be segmented. So that's the third part of the thing that Audience Studio does. So let's look at how this would work. OK, let's say this is a unknown user. You can only see his shadow right now. He searches for SIP calculator in Google. He sees an ad for SIP calculator, which is being run by our fictional company MF Mutual Funds. He clicks on that ad, comes to the calculator. So he's not given us any personal information, but as soon as he comes to our website, there's a cookie ID that is generated, a Crux ID, which starts tracking that person. So on the calculator, he's entered things like he wants to purchase a car. He's entered how many years do you want to fulfill the goal in, what's the expected rate of return, what's the goal amount. So he's put in 15 lakh of rupees. Then somewhere else, he's put in something like his monthly SIP amount could be 25,000 rupees, right? So he's giving us information about himself without divulging who he is. Further, he does things like he reads an article on our website called Basics of Equity Funds. He goes and reads an article about mid-cap inquiry and he goes on to our homepage. Now what is happening is all of this information, what's his budget, what's the salary income, what's the target spend, what are his aspirations, make sure that the profile we have of this user becomes richer than it was when he first came to our website. So if you remember, when he first came to our website, the profile was shown as if it was just a shadow. But now, while we don't know who he is, we do have a bit better information, which is through first party data. What the DMP can further do is it can also enrich the profile even further through second party and third party data sources. So second party data is data that is collected as first party data on any other website. So I'll talk about that in detail. But once the second and third party data is available, we can import it into our DMP and the profiles of our unknown users can get enriched even beyond what the first party data is enriching them. And this allows us to target the customer in an even better manner. So here are some examples. Let's say this user also went to a car compare website called carcompare.com. Here what he did was he compared cars in the 10 lakh rupee range, and this has happened in the last 30 days. Now for the carcompare.com website, this is called as first party data. But when MF Mutual Fund accesses this in a privacy safe way through the Salesforce Audience Studio DMP, it becomes known to mutual funds, MF Mutual Funds, as second party data. Similarly, there's a second party data that is also collected from a website called Fund Monitor, where this user has gone and tried to look at which are the best performing equity funds. So we now know that what is this person more and more interested in. Again, this enriches our profile even further. There's a credit scoring agency. This is an example of third party data. Credit scoring agency called CredRate, which gives us some information about how much does this person spend on a credit card, what's the number of loans taken, what is the credit score, and so on and so forth, right? Now all of this further enriches this person's profile. So if you remember earlier, he or she we had only 4 pieces of information about him. Now we have 7 pieces of information, right? So the data is further enriched. Now, what does this enriched data allow us to do? And this is very, very powerful. It allows us to do far more effective activation. So what do I mean by activation? So let's take this News 24/7 website. You know, this is a place where this particular user, after his profile has been built with us, he goes there to browse, news. Now, because we know that he has expressed an interest in purchasing a car, he has gone to carcompare.com. We know that the ad that we have to show him on this website should have the creative of a car rather than somebody else who may be more interested in a travel related ad, right? So you show him a ad which says your dream car is an investment away with an invest now button. So he's far more likely to convert. Similarly, you can optimize your own website. So the next time he comes to the MF Mutual Fund website, let's say he clicks on the ad and comes, we shouldn't show him a generic landing page. We should show him a landing page which is customized and personalized on the basis of his or her expressed intent. In this case, his or her expressed intent is they wanted to purchase a car. So which is where you see the the landing page on the left hand side get shown to him rather than the one on the right hand side. Further, what the Audience Studio DMP allows you to do, Salesforce DMP allows you to do is it allows you to frequency cap the wasted impressions, and it allows you to do this across various DSPs. So what does this mean? Let's say that you are advertising across different DSPs, and what you realize after testing for a while is that somebody who doesn't engage with your ads after getting served 10 impressions, probably every subsequent impression is a waste. Now, while at a DSP level you can do frequency capping, DMP allows you to do this across various different ads. So this is immediate money that you save. Further, what you can do is you can also change the ad creative on the basis of which impression the person is seeing. So maybe from the first impression to the 4th impression, you show the ad which says your dream car is an investment away. But from the 5th impression onwards, you build a little bit of urgency. So you say, have you invested for your dream car yet? And so on, right? The next thing you can do, which is again very powerful, while you don't know this person yet, you can use this person's enriched profile to do what is called as lookalike activation. So who are the other people like this guy who you can also reach out through the DMP and also get to convert. Now, what does all this activation allow? This activation makes the chances of this person giving us his PII higher. So it gives you higher conversion rate. And when the conversion happens, when he gives you some PII, and now you can see his face here. So this was actually Aditya who was doing all these activities. Once the conversion happens, you know who this person is. And not only that, you also know all the information that you collected with him while he or she was anonymous. So you know what are his credentials, how much savings he has, what are salary details, what's the intent he wants. He wants to buy a car in this case. He wants to invest in equity mutual funds. We have information about his credit score. We know his aspiration, target spend, and so on. And all of this has happened in a very, very privacy safe manner, right? So now you know this person. That's when, if you look at this journey again, you've traversed the journey from being an unknown user, converted him from being an unknown user to a known user. So now he is at a potential customer stage. And that's where the next platform, which is Salesforce Marketing Cloud, comes into the picture, right? Now, what is it that Salesforce Marketing Cloud allows you to do? It allows you to build what is known as a single view of the customer, SVOC. So single view of the customer, you have the customer's unique identifier right in the middle. Could be an email ID, could be a customer ID, could be a phone number, what have you. And around that, you can build all of this information. What are his or her interests? What's the source of the investment? What is the preference of language? Any behavioral information? Any transactional information? All of this can be stored against that user's PII, and we can build a single view of the customer. And what does that single view of customer allow us to do? It allows us to do more effective activation. And I'm going to cover 5 things when it comes to activation. I'm going to cover segmentation. I'm going to cover 1:1 customer journeys. I'm going to talk about dynamic content, about Einstein, which is an AI platform built into the Salesforce Marketing Cloud, and I'm going to talk about conversation. So very quickly about segmentation. So let's say these are all the parameters that we have. So what's the investment amount? The possible answers to this could be less than 10K, 10 to 30K, 30 to 50K, 50 to 90K, or above 90K. The tenure could have various different options. The reason for investment could have various different options. The type of investment could have various different options. And similarly, the life stage could have various different options. Now, because we have enriched the customer profile using all of these parameters, we know, for example, that Aditya Singh falls into a particular segment, which is he has 10 to 30K per month to invest, wants to invest over a 4 to 6 year period. He wants to purchase an automobile. He is interested in equity funds and his life stage is single. Now, this is very, very powerful information. And knowing this powerful information, we can actually do what are called as 1:1 customer journeys to convert this person from a lead to a customer. So you already know this person, you have a lot of information about this person. Now, when you communicate to him or her, you don't need, it's not effective to communicate a single time. It's not effective to communicate on the single platform. The Salesforce Marketing Cloud allows you to create 1:1 customer journeys, which help you communicate with this person on the right platform at the right time with the right content. So here's an example customer journey. So you have somebody who receives an email first, which is about the product offering, form plus app download. Now, depending on the action the person takes, let's say he or she submits the form, then there is a different branch of the journey that gets taken. If he or she doesn't submit, then you wait for 2 days and you send another emailer, maybe this time with an incentive. If again he or she doesn't submit, then maybe you need to change the channel of communication. So you change the channel of communication to SMS. The next communication after SMS is in this particular example journey, we've given you can see the WhatsApp logo talks about sharing a WhatsApp communication. And so on and so forth. We keep reminding the person till the transaction is complete. So this is one example of a 1:1 customer journey of converting somebody from a lead to a transaction. But you can also increase the lifetime value of the customer by, after the person has transacted. Maybe in this particular case, we are giving an example of 6 months after the customer has transacted. We've done a lot of profile enrichment in those 6 months by sending him surveys, sending him communication, tracking his behavior, whether he opens certain communication or doesn't, and so on. We can then send an emailer with a recommended upsell. So basis his behavior, what is the next purchase that makes the most sense for him or her? And again, you will see that there is a communication that's happening to him across email, SMS, and in this particular case, we are also using Ad Studio, which is a part of Marketing Cloud, which allows you to run campaigns across Facebook and Twitter and so on and so forth. So again, you're doing a multi-channel journey, showing him the right content at the right time on the right platform. I'll quickly talk about right content, and this is a very interesting example. This is something called as dynamic content. So what is dynamic content? Dynamic content is a feature of the platform which allows you to customize the content that reaches the consumer on the basis of his or her past behavior. So here you see an emailer. This is an example emailer. Right at the top of the emailer, it says reach closer to your goals with mutual funds. And you see a car key here, right? Now the image with a car key is selected because Aditya wants to purchase a car. However, there are 5 different options here, and depending on what we know to be the person's goal, that hero image will get modified. So you're sending out one emailer, but the platform is dynamically deciding which image to show which user. Similarly, you have the introductory message. It can be individually constructed. You have apply now as a call to action button, but let's say he has invested via advisor, you could have a call to action button which says talk to your advisor today. Now you see 4 features here. It says, or you see a grid, a 2x2 grid. It says features and benefit, eligibility criteria, EMI calculator, and how to apply. Now, depending on what is it that you want to show the user, each of these can be personalized. And when I'm saying personalized, this is all happening in an automated fashion. If you see on the left hand side of the slide, We are also saying that the subject is got a new car on your mind. Again, depending on what the intent was expressed, this changes. The pre-header says we've got a mutual fund for you. Here also what is possible is we can do what is called as a A/B testing or a multivariate testing, where we try multiple options of these headlines, right? So that's how this particular thing works. Now, what this is showing you is that within one emailer, you have 320 possible permutation combinations using dynamic content from Salesforce Marketing Cloud. And in some of the examples that I'll talk about, we've done this to tens of thousands of permutations combinations in one single communication. So it's very, very powerful, dramatically increases the conversion rate. And I'll talk about that a little further. The next thing I want to talk about is what is called as Einstein. So Salesforce has built in a layer of Einstein, which is an AI platform. And again, when the Journey Builder session happens next week, our team will demonstrate some of this. The Einstein platform actually has the ability to look at the performance data and then make recommendations in a live fashion. So in this case, it predicts what is the email engagement going to be. So let's say that out of all our email subscribers, it automatically is able to classify who are dormant, who are what is called dormant is basically they have low open rates, low click rates, window shoppers. So window shoppers are people who are likely to have high open rates, but low click rates. Then you have selective subscribers. So they have low open rates, but when they open, they have high click rate, and loyalists. So who have high open as well as high click rates, right? So the Einstein algorithm is able to predict who is going to fall into which of these categories. And then of course, for each of these categories, you can run different type of campaigns, right? So here is an example. In case, this is an example of a journey that you can build in the platform. You put a persona split with which is the Einstein logo. And it says that for loyalists, you send a push notification first, because as a loyalist, they're likely to have a mobile app installed, your app installed. As selective subscribers, you send them an email, or as a window shopper, you send them an email and then day you exit the journey. But if someone is dormant, you don't stop at the email, you also send an SMS later. And for everybody else, you treat them in the dormant window, right? So this is something that the Einstein algorithm is able to predict for us. So, as a brand or as an agency, we keep hearing about how the large tech companies are using AI and machine learning for their marketing initiatives. Now it's no longer the domain of only a select few companies. So a platform like Einstein actually gives it in the hands of every single marketer. Then you have another example of Einstein called send time optimization. So so you have a journey and you have hundreds or thousands of consumers running through that journey, but each of those thousands of consumers may have a different time in which they open an email, for example. So you can use Einstein's send time optimization, which predicts that for every customer or every consumer, what is the time of the day they are going to open an email by studying their behavior in the past. And on the basis of that, they make sure that whenever they are going to check their email, the email from our brand is right on top of the inbox. So that's what the send time optimization allows us to do. And the last thing it allows us to do is it allows us to be better at social conversations that are happening on various platforms. Now, because we have a single view of the customer, let's say Aditya Singh tweets a tweet saying that I want to move from a fund-wise statement to a folio-wise statement. What MF Mutual Fund, so MF Mutual Fund captures this using a tool called Social Studio, which is built into the Marketing Cloud, which is a social listening tool. But not only does this get captured, because we have a single view of customer of who is Aditya Singh, we can actually respond to that particular person in a manner that creates a delightful experience. So the Aditya said, I want to move from a fund-wise statement to a folio-wise statement. And what we can do is we can respond saying, we understand your concern and our advisor will get in touch with you. So we already know who is Aditya, who is the advisor attached to him, and so on and so forth. So it creates a great experience for Aditya as well, right? So that's the talk about conversations, which brings me back again to the original journey, right? Which is we saw that while the person was unknown, to convert him from unknown to known, we have the Audience Studio, which is the DMP, and then to take the customer from potential to an existing customer, and then of course continuing to do referrals, cross-sell, upsell, you have the Salesforce Marketing Cloud. Which brings me to the third part of the puzzle, which is Datorama. So what's Datorama? Datorama is a marketing intelligence company that helps you understand all the marketing initiatives that you're doing, what is working, what is not working, what's the contribution of each activity, what are the actionable insights that can be derived from each of these activities that are being performed, and how can we use these insights for better planning. That's what Datorama allows us to do. And why is it important today? It's important today because we are in an extremely fragmented marketing world, right? So as a marketer, you're probably looking at multiple brands across multiple regions, running several different campaigns, and each campaign is going across different channels, Facebook, Google, you name it, all the channels are being used by you, right? Not only that, this number of channels is only increasing, right? So you have, maybe 8-9 years back, you're probably having to keep track of a fraction of what you have to keep track of today. So how do you do all this, right? The further complication happens because, in digital today, we run campaigns which require constant optimization, right? So it's not a set it and forget it world anymore. It's a world where you run a campaign and on a minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day basis, you have to track how is the campaign performing. If something's performing better, can we push more money and more bandwidth and more effort behind it? If something's not performing better, can we pause, take corrective action and reinitiate as soon as possible? That's exactly what Datorama allows us to do. Datorama allows us to track all your campaigns, everything that you're doing all across your various different initiatives in one single dashboard. It uses the power of AI to also recommend things that you should be doing. So which are the ad campaigns that you should be stopping? Which are the campaigns that are giving you the highest conversion and therefore you need to put in more monies? These are recommendations that Datorama can give you real time. In fact, a couple of sessions from today, from this session, we actually have an in-depth Datorama session, which I'd urge everybody to attend. So that brings me to the summary slide of everything that we looked at, right? So Aditya had some challenges. If you remember, he said the brand doesn't know me. That's challenge number 1. Challenge number 2, the brand knows me, but doesn't seem to be doing anything about it. Challenge number 3, I don't know the product or service. And in each of these cases, the Audience Studio, the Marketing Cloud is helping him. So Audience Studio helps in tracking the footprint of Aditya, establishes behavior across devices, effectively communicate, effective unknown targeting. So if someone's unknown, how do you effectively communicate with them? It helps you do affinity-based targeting and retargeting, avoids communication overload, right? So if I'm not interested, the brand should stop communicating with me. AI-based behavioral segmentation and site optimization. These are the things that Audience Studio does. Marketing Cloud helps you retargeting using Ad Studio to lookalike audiences. It helps you do things like send time optimization, 1:1 journeys across all stages of the life cycle, communication based on user actions, improve TAT and conversions, and also things like personalizing product communication, newsletters, knowledge-based journeys, feedback and customer satisfaction, and so on. And all of these things, Datorama is what helps you track and monitor and derive intelligence from all of these things in a real-time manner. Which brings me to a very important slide, which is what's the measurable ROI in all these activities, right? So for example, let's just take a look at Audience Studio. Through frequency capping, it allows you to reduce wastage impressions, and that's a direct impact on how you're spending your media budgets. Through personalization, it increases your conversion rate. So every rupee you spend goes further in terms of customer acquisition or incremental transactions. Better targeting makes sure that your acquisition costs reduce, either first time acquisition or subsequent. Higher engagement ensures that your content performs better. So Audience Studio is actually giving you rupee value across so many different methods. Similarly, Marketing Cloud is reducing wasted communication through better tracking, better engagement rates through 1:1 communication and journeys, increasing the lifetime value of the customer through sustained personalized communication. So not just for the first purchase, but for every subsequent purchase as well. And increase performance through engagement metrics, right? So across engagement metrics. So we saw examples like Einstein, multivariate testing, dynamic content, which help you increase the performance across whatever metric you're measuring. And where are you measuring those metrics? You're measuring them on Datorama, and that's where the better tracking and decision making happens. I quickly want to touch upon one specific part of the platform called Interaction Studio. And again, Interaction Studio powered by Evergage is in fact the last session of this WPP learning series is on Evergage. This is the newest platform that Salesforce has acquired and made available. It's now launched in India, and there's a lot of customers that are working on this platform. What Evergage allows you to do is it allows you to do real-time personalization across the customer lifecycle, which means wherever the customer is in her journey, you can personalize the communication, including something like, the use cases are, let's say the customer goes to a bank ATM and she withdraws money, but the last time she had engaged with you, she had given you an indication that she is interested in the loan. The bank can actually show her the home loan communication on the ATM screen. So truly personalized at every single interaction, right? So it can capture individual insights. So it knows details at an individual level. What are the person's affinities? What are the intents and so on and so forth? This entire experience is optimized with the help of AI. So it's a platform which has this Einstein AI running through every part of it. It can coordinate engagement everywhere. So like I mentioned, whether it is on a phone or a laptop or any sort of device, or even devices which are IoT devices and devices like ATM screens, it can coordinate engagement across all of these. And of course, it can test and analyze attribution metrics. So which part of your entire journey or communication was the most effective? That's something that Evergage allows you to do, right? Now, quickly, I want to move to a couple of case studies that I want to showcase. Just a reminder, in case anybody has any questions, please do feel free to ask them. We have a Q&A section right inside Teams. You can put in your questions there. I'll be happy to take them. Another reminder, this is the first of 6 sessions. We're going to have 5 more sessions coming up, and each session is dedicated to a different part of what I showed today. So today is an overview, business overview, but we are going to be deep diving, looking at the tool, how does it work and so on in each of the subsequent sessions. So a reminder about that as well. I'll quickly talk about our first case study, which is something we did for Club Mahindra or Mahindra Holidays, as some of us may know it. And this is a large timeshare company. Basically, you can subscribe to Club Mahindra and then you get certain number of days in which you can holiday in their various resorts. And the case study I want to talk about here is how we built a single view of their customer for them and use that single view to run very, very effective marketing campaigns. So what do I mean by single view of customer? So when we started work with Club Mahindra, their prospect data was stored in a different system called Oracle Siebel. Their customer data was stored in a system called Talisma. Their finance data was stored in a system called SAP, again a completely different system. And their reservations and booking data was stored in a homegrown fourth system, right? It's impossible to work in a, run effective campaigns in a scenario where there's so much disparate data sources, right? This is the definition of silos. What we were able to do is we were able to identify that for running effective campaigns, what information is present in which of these systems? How do we collect that information and make it available within Salesforce Marketing Cloud? So you have a single view of every customer and then use that information to run more effective campaigns. So just an example of one of the campaigns that would be run here. So let's say they wanted to run they had some resorts where the bookings were going low. So they wanted to promote bookings in those resorts to people who belong to the purple tier of their subscription and who had paid their last 3 EMIs in time and who had holidayed in another beach resort. Now, can you imagine this information when it's spread across 4 different systems? It's impossible to run a campaign. You have to do some extraction using Excel, compare 4 or 5 Excel sheets, find something out, and then run the campaign, by which time it's become stale. Because the single view of the customer was available in the Marketing Cloud, we could run these campaigns in real time. And what did that do for us? If you look at these blue boxes, you'll see some truly fascinating numbers. From the people who opened our emails, there was a 96% lift in bookings. That's a phenomenal increase. This is the definition of in a few campaigns itself. they were able to get positive ROI from whatever investment they'd done in the platform, right? From the people who opened our email, there was a 90% increase in referrals in their referral program. Absolutely incredible. They ran a campaign, we called it a lead graveyard campaign. So these were leads which were given to, I mean, the Club Mahindra had acquired those leads 2 years back. Maybe 2 years back they didn't convert, but now was a chance to actually convert them again. So in this lead graveyard campaign, we were able to deliver a 2.5% verified to sales conversion. That was the conversion rate that was being calculated. Highest of any single acquisition campaign that they were running across their organization, right? So phenomenal numbers we are able to deliver by building this single view of the customer. The next example I want to share with everybody is something that we do for KFC. So in KFC's case, the first thing we did is, and we've been running their MarTech operations for the last 3+ years. Something we did for KFC is that, we first looked at all their customers, and basis their transaction history, we segmented those customers into different segments. So we had hero customers. So hero customers were customers who had purchased from a KFC at least 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6+ times. Their last purchase was in the last 30 days and their average transaction size was large. So those were what we were calling hero. So they were the highest lifetime value. Then we had about to be hero, so potential hero customers. Then we had lapsing customers. So customers who were heroes but they hadn't made a purchase in the last 1 month. And then we had lapsed customers, customers who hadn't purchased with us in 2+ months, right? So we had all these segments. Further, we had information about which city those customers were based in, right? Now, on the basis of the city, we ran a campaign during the IPL season, right? And the IPL campaign was run in such a way that depending on when that particular city's match was running, they would get a communication related to that particular city. So if I am in Punjab, in any of the cities in Punjab which had a KFC, and there's a match of that particular Punjab IPL team, I'd get a message on that day saying, Punjab, make some noise for your team, the KFC Super 6s, 18 chicken pieces at 499. You know, that sort of an example. Immediately, and this used to go just before the match was starting, so the customer had time to do a purchase and eat while he watched the match. Similarly, somebody else would get it on a different day at a different time and so on. What this did was, this was absolutely relevant communication. The creative was great and it was absolutely targeted at the right time. And it gave us some phenomenal numbers. So if you see the two metrics I have here is revenue from the CRM base increased by 28% quarter on quarter. That means in the quarter we ran this campaign, the revenue from CRM base was 28% more than just 1 quarter back. The increase in ROI increased 64% because of this campaign. What do I mean by increase 64%? What is ROI? How much revenue was incremental revenue was generated divided by how much money was spent. That number increased 64%, right? So absolutely phenomenal numbers. And we have tons of other case studies which we can share subsequently. But these are just 2 case studies. I'll quickly move on to how do you identify who can make benefit out of a MarTech or a marketing automation platform. Definitely these are the big sectors: financial services, education, retail, including food retail, hospitality, real estate. So if any of your customers have fall into any of these buckets, or any customers who are on this first call today who fall into any of these buckets, these are absolutely relevant industries for us to talk about MarTech. Anyone who has a CRM database of customers and is already running campaigns on email, SMS, custom audiences is a perfect match. And for clients which have a large channel sales type business, there are also some very strong solutions that can be built using Salesforce, right? Very quickly, before I move to Q&A, just a reminder, there are several sessions happening. They're happening on the 13th, 18th, 25th, 1st and 8th. You can see the timetable here. You can, you would also have received a mail talking about this timetable. We look forward to having a lot of you joining us. In each of these sessions, we are going to deep dive into these platforms. So the first session into Journey Builder, second session into Social Studio, third into Datorama, fourth into the Salesforce DMP, and fifth into Evergage, which is the newest platform. Yeah, so I welcome all of you here. I want to thank everybody for their time. I'll quickly move to Q&A. Yeah, so I'm going to quickly run through some of the questions that I'm seeing here. Yeah, so there's a question around what if he is coming from a mobile device? So I suspect, this is around the DMP. So absolutely, we can track users coming in from mobile devices as well, both from mobile website as well as from mobile app. The DMP as a platform, you can integrate it into each of your mobile sites as well, websites, apps, all of that, right? I have a question from Rajit. While you're personalizing for somebody who's expressed interest in a car, doesn't that make serving a car ad violate PII norms? Yeah. So what is happening in this case, Rajit, is that so because these products come from Salesforce, one of the things that just like WPP, Salesforce values a lot is privacy, right? So Salesforce doesn't allow many of these PII violations to happen at all. Even if somebody wanted to, you couldn't do it. So how does it work in this particular case? So if someone's expressed an interest in the car, that interest is being stored against a cookie ID. It's not being stored against a PII information. Further, this is happening at an aggregate level, which means the targeting using the DMP will happen to everybody who's expressed an interest in cars. All of them will receive the car related communication, right? So a lot of this is happening at an aggregate level rather than an individual level. I of course took the example of Aditya Singh for illustration purposes, but it is happening at an aggregate level. And again, this is a great question. So this is something that we will cover in detail in the DMP and Audience Studio session as well. How can we show ads in a sequence based on impressions? Like you said, ad 1, ad 2, correct. So yeah, so this is a good one. So what happens is, when we are using the DMP, you can choose how the activation happens. So depending on frequency, you can activate a different creative. So let's say the frequency is between 1 and 5, you can activate creative 1. If the frequency, so what do I mean by frequency? Everybody who has seen an ad within that range will see a particular creative. So that's an activation option that the DMP provides you, right? So this is again, happy to cover this in detail within the session, but it's very interesting because you can almost like tell a story using this kind of a sequencing of creatives. Okay, next question. I think the mobile device will be same as desktop because the indicated object is browser. That's right. So in browser also it collects, as well as it will collect within mobile app also. So mobile app SDK is also present. So he doesn't necessarily have to go to your only your website. He or she could download an app. Let's say he or she is downloading a a comparison app. That comparison app could track the person's behavior as well. With privacy being a huge concern, is there a way to circumvent false data provided by a customer? So if a customer willingly provides, so first of all, we have to protect the customer's privacy, right? And then the platform is very, very good at that. And even as service providers, this is something we hold in extremely high regard. But if a customer is, by his or her own will giving false data, then there's nothing in the first step that you can do. But typically what we are able to do is, when we run campaigns, we are able to identify by things like, is someone dormant? If someone is dormant and everybody else in that cohort has a different behavior, there are these kind of, our experience has helped us develop these methodologies by which to identify who is potentially like given us false data and so on. In things like, fake email IDs or fake phone numbers and so on, they're literally like tools available directly, which you can use those tools to clean up that kind of data. So these are things which are, pretty well established. So the next question is, so ideally, do we need to have ad copies for each stage of the purchase journey, multiple copies, any POV on that? So this is a great question. As the granularity of the segmentation you do increases, yes, it does give you an opportunity to do more creative work. And the way we look at it is, it's like telling the same story to a different audience in a different way. So from a creative standpoint, it really opens up a Pandora's box of what you can do. So with your central idea and central theme remaining the same, because you can segment that much more, you can do copies at a very much more granular level, art at a very much more granular level, depending on what as a creative person you think will appeal to that micro segment, right? So creative and art, the opportunities are absolutely endless with something like this, not just restricted to copies. Does the AI write the copy, or do you have to create a bank of different copy options? So the AI doesn't right now write the copy. You have to, it will tell you what is performing the best, and then you can use that to create multiple copy options. But right now, the copy options, the creative needs to be done by the copywriter. And obviously, the creative insights that an individual will get, the AI just doesn't have the ability to get those creative insights. And this is across platforms, right? Just wondering if Salesforce also has a chatbot which can offer a personal experience. Yes, it does. So Salesforce allows you to build a chatbot and integrate it very closely with, say, your service agent. So someone's questioning you, like, comes to your website, puts in a query. Salesforce allows you to build a chatbot that can respond to that query in the best possible way, which will reduce time and so on and so forth, right? So that's what Salesforce allows you to do from a chatbot standpoint. What can be the solve for brands with the traffic being directed to an e-commerce website? Okay, so while it's 4, since there are lots of questions, I'm going to extend a little bit to cover how many more questions we can. My email ID is also present, so you can write to me subsequently, but I'm just going to continue with the questions. What can be the solve for brands where the traffic being directed to an e-commerce website? Okay, so that's a good question. So the way I'm interpreting this question is, because the purchase is finally going to happen on an e-commerce website, the brand may or may not get the data of that customer, right? In that case, what happens is, so let's say the e-commerce website is owned by the brand itself. If it's owned by the brand itself, then absolutely you will have access to the data. So everything we spoke about, right from the unknown to conversion to known, and then the known journeys, all of that applies. Let's say you are redirecting the traffic to people who are in the unknown. Let's say you're redirecting it to a third-party website, like which is not sharing data back with you. Then, of course, anything which is on the unknown side is what can get covered using the Marketing Cloud, right? Saurabh is asking, when do you decide to give up on trying to convert a person who after several attempts has not taken any opportunity to connect, buy, learn more? I'm sure the brand will attract brand imagery. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. This is a very good question. And in fact, very recently, we used to hear these things. Amazon keeps following me every year, not to take any particular company's name, but those ads keep following me everywhere. So are they stalking me and so on? So I think this is something which, on a brand by brand basis, or on a in fact at times even on a campaign by campaign basis, the answer changes. Like, what is the right frequency? Now, what is the right frequency? Answer changes. But do we need to determine what's the right frequency? 100% we need to determine what's the right frequency. How do we determine what's the right frequency? So it's a combination of looking at things like at an aggregate level, so there'll be like a bell curve of conversions that is happening, right? At what point is every incremental impression it gives you diminishing returns? So that's a clear point where you should stop. But even before that, do we need to start even before that? So there are models, there are recommendations that the DMP itself provides using its own analytical capabilities, which allow us to kind of make up this decision and say, hold on, in this particular campaign, anything beyond 6 impressions, we just have to cap it. So that frequency capping is very, very relevant. It means you start tracking his journey to all sites he's visiting and store the information basis which you'll collect all information. But you'll do this with a precondition that she visits at least once in the site, specified your site, post. Exactly, that's right. So this is so the question is, does the collection of information start only after he or she has visited your site once? Only after that does the collection on second party site start? Yes, that's absolutely right. a unique ID needs to get created for that person, what is in this system called a Crux ID. After that, you can start tracking the person. The unique ID can also be created by the person seeing an impression of your media. That's one more way, and only after that you track. Of course, the person has to accept cookies. It's possible for someone to, the very important point, it's possible for someone to opt out of all of this by not opting into cookies, right? So there is a ability that that person has to say, okay, I don't want to share cookies, so he or she can opt out of this entire thing. How do we register for the other sessions? You should have received the registration email, but I'll ask my colleague Vinayak here to kind of come back to you specifically on this question post the session is over. Is there a way to use the customer insight and use the same to provide personalized content basis, number of visits, products viewed, inquiries raised? Yeah, absolutely. So the Marketing Cloud has a way for you. So the question here is, can the website itself be personalized on the basis of the consumer behavior? So absolutely, this is absolutely right. What the Marketing Cloud does is, for certain types of websites, the DMP has a built-in plugin. So something like I would imagine with Sitecore or something that has some sort of a personalization capability, the DMP can by itself start pushing in this personalization information. Even if that doesn't exist, let's say you've built a custom website, all these products expose very, very robust APIs which you can always leverage in order to personalize the website as well. And we have some examples. In fact, in one of the DMP sessions, we can cover this point in greater detail. I'll just make a note that this is something that people are interested in. What about GDPR? Yes, absolutely right. So these are products which are today live in use in all the European countries, right? So these are all products built respecting GDPR, right to be forgotten, and all of these things. In fact, even in the case where somebody has given you a consent to use the information, they have the ability to reach out at any time and say, hey, you know what, we take back that consent. Then there's a way to remove them from our systems as well, right? So these things very much are done keeping in mind GDPR. And not just that, even in our country, we are going to start seeing, there was the Sri Krishna Commission that happened. We are going to start seeing a lot of progress towards privacy. These are the kind of tools, and Salesforce, just being the kind of organization it is, it keeps in mind, these kind of scenarios while building their platforms. Client is using Salesforce as a lead management tool. Can Datorama and other tools be used to track lead behavior? Can it be used for attribution modeling? Yes, absolutely. It can be used for attribution modeling and to track lead behavior. The way we kind of do it is, once you identify that this is the use case, in Datorama's case, we actually build a mock for you and we show you, okay, this is what is possible in order to address this use case. And once the sign off happens, we can go ahead and build that modeling. So it does allow you to do attribution modeling. Can this be used? Tathagat is asking this question. Can this be used for auto sector, which more or less behaves in the same way? 100%. Our largest customer was an auto customer, or is an auto customer, and they use this platform absolutely extensively. Because in an auto as someone who's from GTB, you obviously know how complex an auto purchase journey is, right? At every stage there are 4, 5, 6 different substages. In each of those substages there are different communications that have to go out. This is exactly the kind of platform that can make a lot of value in the automobile sector as well. Next question is, so for each visit on our website, we need to create a different set of creatives every time when the same user engages with our page. Yeah, so how many sets of creatives to create? How many permutations, combinations to create? That's something that is for us to decide. The way we look at it is, we have to plan a customer journey. And once we plan the customer journey, so the platform doesn't dictate the journey. The platform facilitates us in making that journey come to life. So if we do micro segmentation and say, okay, there are 200 variations of this particular creative, whether that's the right thing or not is for all of us to decide. That the platform can't decide for us. But once we've decided that we actually need 200 variations, 200 different creatives, if we try to do it without a platform like this, it's very, very difficult. Which is where the platform comes to play to actually enable this sort of a capability, right? Due to data privacy concerns, more folks are moving to browsers like DuckDuckGo. Can they still be tracked with Salesforce? Yeah, so I think you probably meant search engines like DuckDuckGo, but you're right. There are browsers like Safari, for example, which are much stricter. DuckDuckGo, which doesn't do tracking and so on. So again, I'll repeat. You know, we don't want to track somebody against their will, right? So even if they are not using these and they don't want to be tracked and they use a platform like like a browser like Safari, or they go ahead and deny the collection of cookies, then we can't track them and neither can we force them to be tracked, right? So the overarching thing is all of this is happening in a privacy safe way only when the person gives consent that I accept cookies, right? And there also it can be rescinded also at a later point in time by asking key, I don't want to be tracked anymore, and so on. Great. Next question again on the same problem. What's your solution to cookieless world, which will happen soon? Yeah, absolutely. That's a developing scenario. You know what happens when cookies kind of go away, right? Now, again, when I talk about Marketing Cloud, if you remember, from the time of unknown to known conversions was based on cookies. After known was based on PII, right? So the known piece of the puzzle pretty much remains the same. But what happens from the unknown to known part of the journey when cookies go away? Yes, so that's a good question. So at that particular point in time, firstly, the DMP has other use cases as well. For example, DMP has other use cases around consent management. It has use cases around how to understand your audience better and so on and so forth, which continue. But for personalization, there are different solutions. So in the Evergage session, which will be conducted in, which is the last session of this series, we'll talk a lot about how Evergage does tracking and so on. So it's a great question, and you know, both the tech companies building these platforms as well as service providers like us, we are working double time to make sure we have the right solution mix for a cookieless world, depending on how fast or slow kind of that happens, right? How do you get users from a non-Salesforce DMP? If someone has Lotame, how is the unique ID portable? Yeah, so there is a possibility of doing trans usage, using cookie pools from different sources, but this is something we'll have to explore specifically in a bit more detail. You know, what does the cookie pool do? What kind of ID is it, and so on. We can take this offline, Nishtha, since you have a specific question. We can take this offline. Next, if a customer is moving between device, how is it tracked? Yeah, so this is very interesting. JP asked this question. So this is something called cross-device identity management, CDIM, and there's a whole science behind how does this work. There's two ways. There's a probabilistic way. There's a deterministic way. Now, deterministic is very simple. You basically, if I log in on my laptop and I log in on my phone, and the login ID is same, it realizes that both of these devices belong to the same person. So it's a deterministic kind of mapping that this is the same guy. Then there's a probabilistic mapping. So in probabilistic mapping, it looks at things like, oh, the behavior of both of these is the same. The location or the IP address from where they came was the same. The journey that they are following. So maybe on the phone, they did one journey and then rest of the journey got continued on the laptop, coming from the same IP address or coming from the same internet connection or so on. Using all of these cues, there are statistical methods or probabilistic methods by which it determines, okay, there's a 88% chance that this is the same person, and so on and so forth. So there is this whole science behind it. I'm taking what I can see seems to be the last question. How does Salesforce solve for cross-device unknown users for acquisition? Yeah, so exactly. I think what I mentioned, cross-device unknown users, they are tracked by each other they are tracked by doing either probabilistic or deterministic identity management. And then once we know that this is the same person, you can actually say that my frequency capping has to happen across all his devices. So let's say someone has logged in on 3 different devices. We know it's the same guy. So same guy or same lady, we don't show him creatives across multiple devices, even if he's present on multiple devices. So you can map him using this CDIM methodology that I mentioned, which is very, very effective. Thanks for that question, Santosh. Yeah, so those are the questions that I could see. Thank you so much for your everybody's time on this session. Thank you so much for this engaging conversation, for all these questions. And again, we look forward to seeing you on all the subsequent sessions. A schedule will be available, or my colleagues can get back to you on the schedule. Looking forward to it. Thank you.